Old West, Far West, or the frontier, are the popular terms for historical events that took place between the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century during the expansion of the border of the United States of America towards the coast of the Pacific Ocean. Stories of people of various conditions who undertook the adventure of the West with the hope of achieving personal success, but who ended up not infrequently faced with justice or the doom of destiny. In this video, we will see their less friendly and familiar face. We will discover secrets that have remained hidden for many years, and you will know facts and realities that have been prohibited in the official history books. In addition, and with the help of artificial intelligence, we will recreate some of the most iconic photos, giving them movement and special effects like you've never seen before. You will enjoy these troubled characters as if they were alive in front of your eyes. Let's start with this exciting story about the Old West.
William Frederick Cody, better known as Buffalo Bill. He earned his nickname by hunting and killing over 4,000 buffalo. Billy the Kid William Bonney, an outlaw and gunfighter of the American Old West who killed 8 men before he was shot and killed. American frontier prostitutes. The legendary Apache Geronimo. He was an Apache leader, but he was better known for his skills as shaman. Annie Oakley. She was an American sharpshooter who starred in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. She also proved to be a great influence on women. Tasokowitko Crazy Horse. The Rufus Buck Gang. General Custer's last photograph. He was a U.S. military officer and commander who fearlessly led his men. Calamity Jane, seated with a rifle as a General Crook scout. Texas Longhorns. The Texas Longhorns are direct descendants of the first cattle introduced to the New World. Their characteristics have given Longhorns their reputation as livestock. Bob Ford, the man who shot Jesse James. Bass Reeves, the first black deputy U.S. Marshal. Pearl de Vere, the most famous madam of the Wild West. Wyatt Earp. The Virginian. This is an American silent Western film based upon the novel by Owen Wister, which a cheerful cowboy must defend himself against a town bully. He romances the local school teacher and helps apprehend a gang of cattle rustlers. Buffalo Bill's troop members. Jesse James murdered in 1882. Texas Rangers. Mormon Olive Oatman. The Return of Draw Egan. A silent drama film where the notorious outlaw ended up in a town he has never been. Mistaken for a good man, he was offered a job as marshal and fell for a local woman. And soon after, his former foe arrived in town, threatened him, and made some trouble. But that didn't stop him from doing the right thing. Bison skulls. Apache spirit dancers. How they look is their way of healing from the mountain spirit. Woman in a mask and bonnet. Ned Christie. The Great Train Robbery. Another silent Western film where a gang of outlaws hold up and rob a steam locomotive, shot a fireman and a messenger. They fled across mountainous terrain and defeated by a posse of locals. Postmortem photograph. Female gunslinger. William Brazelton, also known as Brazen Bill. Storyville prostitute. George Parrott, better known as Big Nose George. His skin was made into a pair of shoes. Rue Barrow. Last scene of the Great Train Robbery.
Hands down, the best photos of Butch Cassidy. Robert Leroy Parker, born 1866 and died in 1908, also called Butch Cassidy, was an American train and bank looter and the head of a group of criminal fugitives known as the Wild Bunch in the Old West. Parker occupied with crime for over 10 years toward the finish of the 19th century. However, the pressing factors of being sought after by law agents, remarkably the Pinkerton Analyst Organization, constrained him to escape the country. He escaped with his associate, Harry Alonzo Longabaugh, known as the Sundance Kid. They ventured out first to Argentina and afterwards to Bolivia, where Parker and Longabaugh are accepted to have been executed in a shootout with the Bolivian army in November 1908. The specific conditions of their destiny keep on being questioned. Parker's life and passing have been broadly sensationalized in film, TV, and writing, and he stays perhaps the most notable symbols of the Wild West mythos in present-day times.
Hi, I'm Abraham Lincoln, and thanks to me Thanksgiving exists.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. And for today, we're gonna show you 10 facts about Abraham Lincoln. Number 10. Fearing another milk sickness outbreak, several members of the extended Lincoln family, including Abraham, moved west to Illinois and settled in Macon County. Number 9. Abraham was firmly against slavery, yet his position on what should happen to freed slaves wasn't so clear. Number 8. He didn't have close personal friends and told jokes and stories at odd times. He said he needed the laughs for his survival. Number 7. Senate race against Douglas was a devastating loss for Lincoln. Also, before Mary Todd married Lincoln, she flirted with Douglas. Number 6. In the dream, Lincoln asked a soldier standing guard, "Who is dead in the White House?" To which the soldier replied, "The president. He was killed by an assassin." Lincoln woke up and annoyed. Number 5. His sister-in-law made a statement that he couldn't hold a lengthy conversation with a lady. Lincoln himself said, "Women are the only things that cannot hurt me that I'm afraid of." Number 4. He was a harsh and cutting polemicist. According to one account, he imitated Thomas in gesture and voice. The crowd yelled and cheered as he continued, and Thomas left the platform in tears. But Lincoln eventually apologized. Number 3. Rumors spread that there must be a connection. Both names contained 7 letters. Their successors were named Johnson, and they were both shot in the head on a Friday and shot in places named Ford. Number 2. Lincoln had a huge feet. In fact, his shoe size was between 12 and 14. This is the biggest feet size in the US president history. Number 1. Interestingly, Abraham Lincoln used his hat to keep his important documents. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel, and for today we are gonna show you vintage photos of women of the Old West. But before we start, I want you to take a look at this picture carefully. Do you know who this woman is? Well, find out at the end of this video. Now let's dive in. Laura Bullion. Laura began a relationship with outlaw and member of Wild Bunch, William Hughes Carver. Cynthia Ann Parker. She was only 10 when kidnapped by a Comanche and had 3 children with him. Texas Rangers discovered and relocated her at age 34. Sally Sampson, also known as Teacup Sally in her prostitution license. Famous Bordello. A private parlor of the 3rd most famous bordello in Lexington, Kentucky. Buffalo Calf Road Woman, also known as Brave Woman. Her rescue of her wounded brother helped rally the Cheyenne warriors to win the battle. UP Saloon. The UP Saloon is an establishment for men, but a family entrance is made on the eastern side, leading to a room where women were permitted. Kate Rockwell. She gained notoriety in her dance shows and got engaged more than 100 times and married at least 3 times. That seems pretty exhausting. Elizabeth Seaman. She was widely known for her record-breaking trip around the world in just 72 days. Dawson's Good Time Girls. These 6 prostitutes are posing for a photograph around 1900s. Dora Dufresne. She was only 15 when she promoted herself to Madam from a dance hall girl and began to operate a brothel in Dakota. Victoria Woodhull. She ran for President of the United States, but she was arrested for her so-called scandalous idea advocating free love. Belle Brezing. She only allowed men above a certain rank in the army to use her brothel and became so famous that when she died, she even received an obituary in Time magazine. John Powell Saloon. I keep seeing animals in the saloon. I wonder if pet owners have ever thought of letting them taste liquor. But please don't do that. Olive Oatman. 4 years with the Mohabs, she received her blue chin tattoo and was known as the first white woman to have a native tattoo on record. Susan Anderson. Known as Doc Susie for her dedication in medical practice for 47 years and didn't retire until she was 84. Pauline Cushman. She was considered one of the most successful Civil War spies. She was caught and sentenced to death, but delayed her hanging by faking an illness and was spared by Union troops. Pearl Hart. She is an outlaw of the American Old West and committed one of the last recorded stagecoach robberies in the U.S. She gained notoriety because of her gender. And as I mentioned earlier before starting this video, I'm gonna answer the question, do you know who this woman is? It's a must-watch video of Carrie Nation. She is an American activist and describes herself as a bulldog running along at the feet of Jesus.
When we talk about the Old West, what always comes to mind are gunfights, outlaws, saloons, and gunfighters. In this video, we will get to know some of the famous gunslingers of the Old West that made it to our top list. The term gunslinger is a modern term often used in cinema or other media. To the end of the video, and let's see if your favorite made it to our list. William L. Buffalo Bill Brooks. Brooks was born in Ohio. He was an American soldier, a showman, and a buffalo hunter, hence the name Buffalo Bill. He was the producer of Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. He was also a Pony Express rider at the beginning of the frontier. He was involved in 15 gunfights during this first month as town marshal in Dodge City. According to legend, Brooks went to Montana where he tried to become the city marshal, but because of Brooks' reputation, was instead passed over in favor of Margot. Several months later, Brooks with 2 other men were arrested for theft. Brooks was lynched while awaiting trial on July 29, 1874. Henry Billy the Kid McCarty. Billy the Kid was born Henry McCarty in 1859, but is also known by the pseudonym William A. Fugitive. Billy the Kid returned to New Mexico after the murder of a blacksmith in Arizona to join a band of cattle. He was tried and convicted of Brady's murder and was sentenced to be hanged, but he later escaped and killing 2 deputies in the process. However, Sheriff Garrett was persistent on tracking the outlaw. Garrett shot and killed McCarty by then age 21 in Fort Sumner in July 14, 1881. He died at a young age but had already killed 8 men. Pat Garrett. He was an Old West American lawman, bartender, and customs agent who became famous for killing Billy the Kid. He was born on June 5, 1850 in Chambers County, Alabama. An orphan at 18 years old, Garrett headed west from Louisiana. He left Texas and migrated to New Mexico, where he worked as a cowboy. Garrett was elected sheriff of Lincoln County, New Mexico. It was when his tracking and encounters of Billy the Kid started shortly after. Pat Garrett tracked the Kid down at Fort Sumner in 1880 after multiple misses and brought him to trial. Pat Garrett resumed track of the outlaw after Billy the Kid fled prison, but eventually killed Billy the Kid thereafter. Although his death was a bit controversial, he was also known to be a great sheriff. James Butler Wild Bill Hickok. He was known as a soldier, scout, lawman, gambler, showman, actor, and American Old West folk hero known for his participation in many prominent gunfights. Hickok was born and raised on a farm in northern Illinois. He was involved in several notable shootouts during the course of his life, including one involving David Tutt, where he killed Tutt with a single bullet 75 yards away. He was acquitted after claiming self-defense. Hickok was shot and killed while playing poker in 1876 by another gambler after a perceived insult. Hickok was holding a hand of cards at the time of his death and has become known as the dead man's hand. 2 pairs, black aces and eights. Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp was a lawman and a gambler in Arizona. He was a legend and the central figure of the Old West of the shootout at the OK Corral. Tombstone was the location and origin of Wyatt's legacy, but it was in Dodge City that Wyatt met his future allies, including Doc Holliday. A 5-month vicious and deadly conflict raged between outlaws known as the Cowboys Gang and the Earp brothers. A posse was created by Wyatt Earp and hunted down and killed the rest of the Cowboy Gang. Wyatt Earp was never injured in any of the gunfights. Earp died at his home in Los Angeles, possibly of chronic cystitis, on January 13, 1929, at age 80. Doc Holliday. He was born in Georgia and raised there. He became a dentist who established his career in Atlanta until he became a professional gambler and gunslinger out west. Holliday, like Earp, was a drifter and a risk-taker. He met Earp in Texas and the two became lifelong friends. Eventually, Holliday will accompany Earp to Tombstone, Arizona, and fight with him side by side at the OK Corral. At 36, Holliday died in Colorado of tuberculosis. Jesse James. Jesse James, like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, was another celebrated bank and train robber who led the James Younger gang along with his brother Frank. James achieved celebrity status and popularity beginning in 1866 by robbing banks, trains, and stagecoaches in the Midwest. James's life of crime ended after nearly 2 decades on the run when he was shot by new gang recruit Robert Ford, who had been promised by the authorities to be forgiven for past crimes if he killed James. We can never really tell if these men are classed as villains or not, but what we are sure of is that they were all fearless and larger than life.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel, and for today we are going to show you some rare Native American photos. But before we start, I want you to take a look at this picture carefully. Do you know who this man is? We'll find out at the end of this video. Now let's dive in. Canyon de Chelly in Arizona. This is a group of Navajo dated in 1904. A Kwakiutl shaman. This shaman performs a religious ritual. It was recognized that natural phenomena and spirit beings possessed supernatural powers that made activities potentially dangerous. A Navajo man. Navajo Nation is the largest federally recognized tribe in the U.S. Nootka man. Nootka man aims a bow and arrow. Today, the Nootka people as a group prefer to call themselves West Coast people. Piegan two-piece. The Kwagil man. This Kwagil man is dressed as a bear. Kwakidul person. Dressed as a forest spirit called Nalim Kilaka or bringer of confusion. Kwagil woman. The woman wears a fringed chilkat blanket and a mask representing a deceased relative who had been a shaman. A Kwakidul wedding. A Kwakidul wedding party arrives in canoes. This was taken in 1914. Kwagil tribe. Members of the tribe dance to restore an eclipsed moon. Paviotso man. A primitive artist in Paviotso tribe. Nakawakdak dancers. Dancers wear hamatsa masks in a ritual. Ocoa Desire, also known as Cloudbird of San Ildefonso Pueblo. A Koskimo man. This man dressed as Hami or Dangerous Thing during a Nomalim ceremony in 1914. Nakwaktak chief. In this picture, Halal, a Nakwaktak chief, is holding a copper. A Hidatsuman. A Hidatsuman taken a picture with a captured eagle in 1908. Walpi Maidens. The Hopi worship Masao, who admonished them to always remember their gods and to live in the correct way. The village leader promoted civic virtue and proper behavior. White Fawn's Devotion. The earliest surviving film directed by a Native American. This play is acted by a tribe of Red Indians in America. In this film, the wife, upset at his husband after learning he is an heir to a large fortune and believing she'll lose him if he returns, she decided to stab herself with a knife. Her husband finds her and removes the knife, but their daughter sees him with the knife in his hand, believing he committed the murder, and alerts the village. The Indians intend to put him to death until White Fawn miraculously revives and informs the Indians of the truth. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to answer the question, do you know who this man is? His name is Edward S. Curtis, the man behind the 40,000 photographic images of members over 80 tribes, produced over 10,000 wax cylinder recordings of Native American language and music, and 4,000 pages of anthropological text. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel, and for today we are going to show you amazing facts of the Old West. But before we start, I want you to take a look at this picture carefully. This is Thomas Jefferson, a diplomat, lawyer, architect, philosopher, and the third president of the United States. Do you want to know a fun fact about him? Well, find out at the end of this video. Now let's dive in. Number 10. Camel Corps. The U.S. Army experimented in forming a camel corps and explored Texas terrain. They imported 66 camels from Middle East only to find out the deserts are nothing like the deserts in Egypt. Number 9. Bender family. The Bender family, also known as Bloody Benders, were a family of serial killers. They have killed at least a dozen of travelers before they were discovered. Number 8. OK Corral. The gunfight at the OK Corral was a shootout between lawmen and a group of outlaws. It only lasted for 30 seconds, but it was regarded as the most famous shootout in the history of the American Wild West. Number 7. Elmer McCurdy. Elmer McCurdy's corpse was unclaimed, so Johnson decided to exhibit his body to make money. Later on, it became a popular attraction and grabbed the attention of carnival promoters, but he refused to sell it. Number 6. George Parrott. After the lynching of George Parrott, also known as Big Nose, who is an outlaw, 2 doctors took possession of his body in order to examine his brain and understand the reason behind his criminality. Parts of his body were later turned into a pair of shoes, an ashtray, a pen holder, and a medicine bag. Number 5. Alice Ivers. She is also known as Poker Alice. The death of her husband resulted to financial problems. She then played poker to make money and soon opened Poker's Palace. Number 4. Scalping. Native Americans used to scalp their enemies. At first, it was only a display and recognized as trophies, but after it became widespread, a reward was usually given. Number 3. Billy the Kid. He was an outlaw and a gunfighter. He became famous after he joined the Regulators and became part of the Lincoln County War. Number 2. Skulls and Bones. Bison skulls and bones were hunted to the brink of extinction. They were used for refining sugar, fertilizers, and fine bone china. Its price ranged from $2 to $15 a ton. Number 1. Cowboy. Quarter of all cowboys were actually African American. They were either former slaves or children of former slaves that jumped to cattle industry, and most of the time they are discriminated. This is what we call calf branding, a method of identifying ownership of cattle. Cowboys gather cows and calf, rope and brand them on the hips and give them vaccine. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to answer the question, do you want to know a fun fact about Thomas Jefferson? Well, you may not know this, but he helped popularize the ice cream in US. Ice cream was introduced to him while he spent time in France. It rose awareness when he served it to his guests, surprised by the frozen dish. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel, and for today we are going to show you some American Civil War photos. But before we start, I want you to take a look at this picture carefully. Do you know who's the man sitting in the middle? Well, find out at the end of this video. Now let's dive in. Inflation of the Intrepid. Used for aerial reconnaissance, the Deus wanted to sell the idea and planned to fly to Washington, D.C., but caught a rebel wind and ended up landing in enemy territory. Teenage soldiers of the Union Army. Refugee family. Loaded on the cart are the family's belongings living in a war area. Fort Sumter, South Carolina. Under the Confederate flag is where the first shots of Civil War took place, bombarding it for 34 hours straight. Little Round Top. The site of the unsuccessful assault by the Confederate troops against Union Army, who almost got rolled up into a carpet and thrown into a river. Alfred Stratton. He was only 19 years old when he was shot by a cannon. 1 in 13 Civil War soldiers became amputees. Civil War embalming surgeons. A 1,000-ton ironclad river gunboat. This gunboat participated in several operations on the Mississippi River. Dictator. A 17,000-pound gun that can fire a 13-inch shell that weighed 218 pounds at distances up to and including 2.5 miles. McLean House. On the porch is where General Robert Lee signed the terms to surrender the Confederate Army. Confederate Quaker guns, aka logs. These are used to deceive the Union military. Stacked cannonballs. Artillery. This dated in 1862, located at Yorktown, Virginia. Before the battle. Union soldiers prepare and pose for this photograph before the battle happened. Bones. African Americans collect the bones of soldiers killed in battle at Cold Harbor. Baseball game. These are Union prisoners playing at Salisbury. Anaconda Plan. Objectives were to set up a naval blockade of Atlantic and Gulf Mexico and transport roughly 60,000 Union troops. Rebel prisoners waiting for transportation. Funeral Procession. This is for President Abraham Lincoln after he was shot by Confederate John Wilkes Booth. Native Americans in the American Civil War served in both the Union and the Confederate military. They participated as individuals, bands, tribes, and nations in numerous skirmishes and battles, and fought knowing that they might jeopardize their sovereignty, unique cultures, and ancestral lands if they ended up on the losing side. They were found in the Eastern, Western, and Trans-Mississippi theaters. So before I end this video, as I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna answer the question, who is the man sitting in the middle? Well, everyone, meet Matt Harrison Brady, considered to be the inventor of photojournalism and the reason why we have such a vast collection of Civil War photographs.
To see the continuation of this video with my even more interesting images, click on one of the following links.